If any of you folks are wearing hats or glasses, best remove them, because this here's the wildest podcast on the internet.
Welcome to the magic where dreams come alive. Through Disney stories, we'll always thrive. From castles to heroes, let the magic unfold. Join us in the journey, let the tales be told. Grab your fairy dust, it's time to play. With every episode, we'll light the way. Bring back the magic for all to see. Together we'll discover all the joy and glow. In every story, there's a little bit of gold. Join our podcast adventure, let the magic unfold.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of Bring Back the Magic podcast. You're welcome for that earworm that'll be stuck in your head for the next God knows how long, because that's a catchy ass song, and we're proud to be here. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Josh.
And I'm Gina, his sister and co-host.
Yeah, see, and we're going to have a lot of fun on this podcast. We're going to talk about what Disney magic is to us and what got us involved in this and what we feel like all of our experiences kind of have brought us to this point. Okay, because we know that Disney is, near and dear to our hearts. We're diehard Disney fans. This is not a podcast to go and trash Disney, although there'll be some controversial content. Am I right?
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to be honest about what we feel, but I kind of think of it like the way I think of motherhood. It's like in motherhood, when you're looking on social, there's people that only talk about the bad stuff about it, the hard stuff. There's people that only talk about the good stuff. But then there's the realists that are somewhere in the middle. They admit like what is hard or what they don't like about it, but they really at heart love it. So they want to love it more than anything else. And that's where we are with Disney. We love it. Everybody knows we're Disney fanatics. People come to us all the time when they're getting ready to go on a trip. But for us, I think the podcast, you and I both agree, this was an idea that came up because we have some opinions to share of just where the magic went. It's not gone. It's just not the same. And we feel like that's something that could be recovered. And so that's the main thing we're going to be talking about in this podcast. But Disney past, Disney present, Disney future, all covered here. And we're excited about it.
No, we're going to take you on a ride through our Disney fandom and things that we actually really do enjoy. But there has been a lot of changes to Disney in the last X amount of years, especially COVID times, especially, with rising costs and all. And let's just tell you, Disney is, I think, probably the most expensive vacation to go on. And I think that's why every one of your friends, if they hear, "Oh, you're going to Disney? Oh, you must be rich." Oh, yeah. Well, you know what? I go, not when you get home, you're not, because you're poor, you have no money, and you're struggling to pay bills. But Disney does have a sound effect, and this is the sound effect. That's a Disney sound.
And honestly, on that point, that's the big thing for me lately when I tell people, one of the big things I've noticed is that you always knew Disney was making money and you never had a problem with it because they always put the money back in and improved the experience and, brought new things on, whatever. And now it feels a little more like the money grab is evident. Before you just didn't notice it as much. You felt like the experience was what mattered, but now sometimes it feels a little bit more like the money matters to them more than the guest experience. And maybe that's just my personal take on it. I don't know, but I don't think I'm alone in that.
No, I don't think you are either. I think we talked about before, like as far as like ticket prices to Disney. We remember when those things were like, like sub $50 to get into Disney World. I'm going to talk about many years ago, but it's exponentially more expensive now. I mean, like when you go out there, you can choose whether you can get like a 2-day pass to Disney or buy like a 75-inch like flat screen. I mean, basically it's equivalent. I mean, if you get like a park hopper for one day, like a 1-day park hopper, it's like $200 and some. And I think like a 60-inch TV might be $200 and some, like Walmart. I mean, like you look at that, you're like, man, this is pretty expensive. And you're getting the privilege of going in and actually, and I'm going to sound like I'm bashing something, but I'm not. But you get the privilege of going in and spending money in the park. So in order for you to spend money, I need you to spend money.
Right.
That's the thing, right? Yeah. But there's so many great things about Disney. It's like what named this to bring back the magic podcast, because when we were younger, it was always like you got that feeling you walked into this immersive world of Disney, and like it was just everybody. It doesn't matter if you are 4 years old or 40 years old or 80 years old. You
Mhm,
get that feeling of nostalgia. You get that feeling of excitement when you go into Disney World. All the things, there's something literally for everybody in Disney. So when
mhm,
you go through, it's like when Epcot became like, let's my favorite park because I love walking around the countries. I love people watching. But you look at like everybody has something different with them. So like the kids, they all love Magic Kingdom. They're going on rides. They're in this fairy tale world. They're so immersed. And then you look at other people. Some people might not be Disney people, it might be animal people that say, "Oh, we went to Animal Kingdom, got to experience wildlife and go on like a safari." That most people aren't going to pay to get to Africa. Although I'll be honest with you, you may have been able to pay to go to Africa and see these things with the
yeah,
amount of cost you to go to Disney now. But it's literally something for everybody. And that's kind of like stuff with when I think of Disney magic, I think of that feeling you get inside, that one where it just you escape your normal reality and you're just immersed.
yeah,
And there's like the magical moments. You saw so much of like the friendliness. And that's the kind of thing I think we're going to talk about more is Disney employees, especially like Walt was a genius. Okay, you can't take him like he is my idol. He will always be my idol. The moment of Walt's P.T. Barnum like thing was the fact that he made cast members
mhm,
working in a live show. He did not hire employees, he hired cast members. So basically, he could tell them to do whatever he wanted because you're a cast member. This is
mhm.
like you go and you're on Broadway. They're like, you need to be, your hair needs to be like this. You need to drop a few pounds there, Tubby, or
Stop
whatever.
it. No,
But and
but to your
listen,
okay.
Sana,
I was
told
gonna
you there's
say
controversy, but I'm like, honestly, you could just
no,
tell
but
people
I'm just saying, like, to your point, the term cast members literally was the reason they called it that, like you said. So to me, the person who's playing Cinderella is no different than the person who's working Dumbo. Like that's their part in the play, in the production. So is every cast member gonna do the extra, like that awesome girl that would go, let's get ready to Dumbo? And she was awesome. You can always tell the Disney ones that add extra. I'm not asking for everyone to do that. I think it's just more like what I don't want to see. I remember there was a day, we all know the story of the Disney utilidors and how that was created. So someone could walk from one land to another in their costume and it wouldn't disrupt the magic. I mean, that's the details that Walt had in mind through this. It wasn't just supposed to be let's throw up an amusement park and like this is this, this is this. I mean, there was a lot of careful planning to this. And I remember being in Animal Kingdom and I just saw like someone in there, just like, a standard, maybe it was somebody who worked on Kilimanjaro or whatever, but they were like walking through the park and they had like their Jansport backpack on and whatever. And I was just kind of like, the average person's not going to
that
know.
bother you because you don't like JanSport.
No, it bothered me because I was like, that just, it's not fitting the vibe. You know what I mean? And that is, I know, very critical. I'm not saying that like ruined my Disney experience, but it's the little things you notice when you see people start having more personal conversations. Remember, you and I walked by, we won't say it, but we walked by Casey's Corner the one day and we heard a cast member drop a really inappropriate thing that she said to somebody else.
Yeah,
And we were like, there's
not
kids
cool.
around. Like, it's one thing you can't
But
control what other
there's
Disney
also
adults. Go ahead.
cast members on their cell phones you see now. And spoiler alert, when you ever see those ones like they're humping like a big bag over their shoulder, it's a big black bag. It's always a costume in that, right? But what gets me is why is it always the tiniest person? Like they have like a whole like line of dwarves or something back there that have nothing to do with Snow White. They're walking around the park trying to be sneaky and pull these things. I've only seen people that are shorter than. Of course, I'm like 6'2", but they're always like shorter than me, and they seem like they're really struggling to carry these things. I'm like, who gets that job? I'm like, all right, you go over there, grab that bag, and hump it over to Fantasyland. All right, on the
Yeah.
double, keep going.
Yeah. I just think that it's like, it's a matter of, it's a very specific role. Like to work in Disney and be a cast member. Again, you may smoke in your real life, but if you get a job as Cinderella, you're not going to be like, okay, well, I'm a smoker. You just have to deal with it. So I think it got clouded a little bit. People's outside styles and personalities, they wanted the ability to be that at the job. And that's just not the case. You know what I mean? Like that's part of the magic. It's not the whole thing, but some of it stems corporately of not feeling like it's, money, 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 over promise, under deliver. But for me, when people say, why do you go to Disney all the time? You guys could go anywhere. Why do you always go to Disney? For me, it was that what we all had in common was it made us all feel like kids. It made us all feel like magic was possible. Anything could happen. You were living in a fairy tale. Yeah, that was the important part of it. And I'm not saying that's gone. Again, it's just there's some loose threads that are starting to unravel. And it's, in a very precocious place right now that it could go one way or the other. And obviously, we know everybody's talking about Epic Universe coming, and that's going to throw Disney off. And I think it's not about thrills at Disney. That was never why I went. Disney was about the magic. That's why I went. I don't care what Universal builds. And yes, they will have a lot of immersion and things like that. But to me, nothing can compete with Disney magic. I go for the feeling, and the feeling is not thrills. The feeling is nostalgia and happiness and magic. That's what I want Disney to hold on to. I don't care if where else has an amazing roller coaster. I just want to feel like a kid again when I'm at Disney.
Well, that's true. And it's also the fact is we're talking about Epic Universe opening and everything, which is very topical now because everybody is. But the IPs involved with Epic, it do speak more to the kids, I think, of today, where you get the video gamers, you get stuff with Super Nintendo. There's a lot of things, the Harry Potters of the world. But there is no substitute, like you said, for the Disney magic. Mm-hmm. Disney magic, you're talking about 40-some square miles of property, tens of thousands of acres of just immersion. And I know that's my popular term today, immersion. We're going to say that and every time I say it, immersion. But yeah, all this insulation from the outside world, okay, where you go onto it and you feel like you're literally, the word resort is not even enough, okay, to describe this. The Walt Disney World Resort, everybody gets that feeling when they drive through the gates of Walt Disney. And you always hope that whoever's bringing you there doesn't take you the crappy route. Right. There's a cab where someone's like, oh, you're staying over in the downtown Disney area. I'll just take you to the back end, the crappy entrance where you're like, oh, there's this. It's like, it's the worst part of it. But you always get that feeling where everybody does the same thing. They take out their cell phone, clicks it. They go and click a picture.
And they shake it.
You know what I'm talking about, and having the goings-ons. But yeah, so they take a picture and then they always Instagram it. Snapchat it to somebody, do whatever, because they're so excited to be there. Now, the experience stuff, and again, with the bring back the magic, was the fact that when you go there, I always said it was a place, and we're not going to use language. And again, this is more like a TV MA kind of
TV
program.
14.
So,
or TV 14 is different than TV MA.
TV 14, yeah, there you go. So TV 14, just a disclaimer. Yeah. But I never had to deal with the a-holes. I'll be nice wording for it. The jerks of the world, you will get other places because you can go places. If anybody's been to Universal, they're a little gruff and they'll come back at you. I remember being told pretty aggressively to get out of the way of the person in the parade, not would you please move it? I'm like, okay, all right, sorry, didn't realize that I was interrupting the show here as I was only a quarter inch off the curb. But that's the thing. It's also the cleanliness of the park. The cleanliness of the park, that has, again, where we said bring back the magic. There was a reason every 20 steps or whatever it was for Walt saying there's a trash can because he wanted to keep his park clean. So it was supposed to be like a park, right? So we saw during the understaffing from COVID and all these things where you'd have overflowing trash cans. The funniest thing I've ever seen is if you go to Epcot and they have the janitors instead of the janitors, and they play on the trash cans and everything else. I was laughing because they hadn't upkept the park that great, and they were playing next to an overflowing trash can. It's all these. Well, I don't want to work. I just want to bang on the drum all day. And I'm going to sit here next to this thing just going to town. The irony is killing me here.
Right.
I go, you know what? Maybe just pick up a mop, go grab a trash bag, do something. But that is the thing. It's you go here, you get a good experience. The customer service was always stellar. If they did something, they made it up for you. I'm never trying to get over on Disney. I always say you get more flies with honey than you can with vinegar. And you go through and you actually have something where you try to meet them on a kind level. Even if you have a bad day, whatever, I'm like, the nicer, that's just a disclaimer for everybody that might be listening or watching to this. Treat them incredibly well. Okay, you're gonna get a lot farther, especially when you deal with Disney on the phone. These people get yelled at, screamed at, because most people are pretty surly when they call into Disney. I'm like, just if you treat them well, normally they'll work with you a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I always just say thank you for your time. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This is I love Disney so much. If there's anything, like if I don't know if you can do this, but if you can try to do this for me, I'd really appreciate it. I understand it might not be in your control, but never expect something, but kind of just nudge a little bit. And
Yeah.
I think they have the power to help people, but they also have the power to deny them. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I want this.
Denied.
No, so they get a little gruff.
But that's a
But
point too you and I have talked about previously, is that the guests are a part of whether the magic is there or not too. Because what's the old expression? This is why we can't have nice things, or one bad apple ruins the whole bunch. Because there are a lot more people coming in, and these people have spent a lot of money. And sometimes that's the problem with pricey. Some people think, oh, pricey, make it pricier, and then you'll, keep a certain type of crowd. But sometimes the more someone's paying, the more entitled they feel. And then you get grumpier, grouchier, less forgiving people, because they're like, what do you mean I can't have this? I spent this much. Now the dads are walking around those t-shirts that say like most expensive trip ever, when everybody else says best day ever.
Bibbidi boppy broke. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think that's something to keep in mind. I know for us, it is a big deal, like to make the cast members feel appreciated. I mean, I'm like that everywhere I go, like down to a drive-through. I'm always greeting people. I like to be exceptionally friendly to anyone who's working, because I've worked in restaurants, I've worked in spas, I've worked in
I'm the
bars,
same
and
way.
I know how people can treat people when they come in somewhere stressed out or already thinking they've spent too much money. So I do like to put that out. And I definitely just want to make a disclaimer that when we talk about cast members, I don't want any cast members to take that personally and think like, oh, they're not appreciated. They are appreciated. They are. I don't even blame any cast members for this issue. It's really stemming from, just like when I walk in somewhere and I get a bad experience with a salesperson or a server, I always think, who's managing this place? Because I can't even hold it to them if the manager doesn't notice that this person is like this and is letting it go on. It all comes from the top. So for me, we knew back in the Michael Eisner times, it was like you felt that guest experience was everything to Disney. It wasn't even about anybody trying to get anything free. It was just that magic. And I know we'll be reiterating that and saying that word ad nauseum to everyone, but that really is the best way to describe Disney. Is it's a feeling you get. It's something that, when you were just saying, it's not just a resort. Disney World especially is a world. You go in there, and the time you go under that sign, everything feels different. Everything. I remember Dad saying one time, we'd gone, no disrespect to Universal, but we'd gone to Universal for 2 days before our Disney trip. And when we got to Disney, Dad was like, even the air feels different here. I don't know. Because it's an energy that's different there. And what the problem, I think,
You
comes
pay
from
extra
is,
for that. You pay
yes,
extra for that. That air is
when you
actually
set
imported from somewhere much nicer.
Yeah. When you set a high standard, your company, you decide what your standard is, right? You say to somebody, this is what you can expect from us. When you say that and then people expect it and you're not delivering, that's not the fault of the guest. It's like, you told me this is what I could expect. You told me this was your standard. And it just boggles my mind that right now, while Disney is getting all this excessive competition from Universal, which they never thought Universal would ever be. I know I used to say it. Universal's never going to be somewhere that people come for the whole trip. Like, you might leave a day of Disney and go to it, but you're not going to do. And
They
now
got
you
four.
can. Now you
They've
can.
got
Now I
4
have
parks.
friends. Now, ever since Harry Potter, especially, I have friends that would say, "I'm going down to Florida for Universal. We're going to do a day in Disney." And I mean, that's something you never thought. And I think that the wrong idea is, okay, Disney needs to make more thrill rides. That was never the concept. And nothing against things that are thrilling, but the idea was supposed to be Disney was where the whole family could do everything together. So the more thrill you do, like, I have neck issues. Half of the rides at Universal, I can't ride. They're contraindication.
Well, they're all simulators because it's sound stages. Everything's a simulator. Everything shakes and quakes you, and it's it is difficult there because there's a ton of things that make me sick there. There's really, really cool rides. Don't get me wrong. I love a lot of like stuff that's
for
in
sure.
Universal, and I'll drink my weight in butterbeer in Harry Potter. I'm like, because until I develop, some kind of issue and get sick because
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, it's a whole other. I am wearing my Trader Sam's diabetes tiki bar, with drinks this sweet, you'll lose your feet. Available on themeparkchuckle.com, our sponsor.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, it's there's a level of entitlement that I feel it comes with the increase of pricing with Disney.
Mhm.
Okay. So Disney, can charge what they want. They can do things it's perfectly within their right to do things for experiences. But then you also get in the crop of people. Now it feels like it's just like there's a lot of cash grabs in it. So it's like you not only pay this exorbitant amount to get into the park. Let's say, I'm like, I just looked up online. I think right now, if you were to go this week, the
Mhm.
bottom price, I think it's like 160 some dollars just for the day for one park.
Mhm.
Okay, and you add that park hopper pass, like stuff to it, it's over $200, and that's just that's a lot. Put it that way,
Mhm.
that's a lot of
Yeah.
money. But not only that, then you're like, here, also buy Genie Plus or Lightning Premiere, whatever they're calling these things. It's like I'll be honest, I missed the days when FastPass was first debuted and it was the paper tickets.
Mhm.
Because it was then there wasn't anything with your phone. You had to go to get a FastPass. You went to the little kiosk, you're like, okay, we're gonna try, we'll come back to this later. And you did it that way. And it was like, okay, if there was a ride you really would get on, you knew you were gonna get on it. It wasn't as crowded with that stuff, but now it feels like it's just like pay for this one, pay for this, or you can jump the line by paying this. Now it's like you can pay like basically double your admission, and then you get that premiere pass for Lightning Lane. You can use it for one of each rides or whatever. It's just that's expensive,
Mhm.
and you might as well just go, and if you're going to do that for each person in your family, you wonder why you see as many VIP tours now. Because VIP tours, most people are paying $5,000 to $7,000 for the day to go around on these. And also, a pro tip though, if you call those people uh, kind of on the heels of your trip, and sometimes the day of, sometimes they have those things for a steep discount, and a VIP tour could be like maybe $1,000, and you get like 10 people with it.
Secret's
So
out.
always
Ruined
keep,
for everyone.
keep an eye out. Huh?
As a secret's out. You should have gatekeep that
The
one.
secret's out. I mean, for both of you guys watching this podcast,
Right. Yeah.
you will you will realize that. But again, there's a associated cost for everything. And it used to be just go in there, you get on some things. We all have our favorite rides. And all that stuff. Like when I think about it, and like I'll jump back into our original topic and saying what brought us into this, bring back the magic stuff, and where's our magical experiences. And
Mhm.
I'll elect myself to go first because I've got a microphone. There's nothing you can do about it. So
Mhm.
my magic stuff began when I was a kid. Okay. And obviously Gina and I grew up together. And when we used to go to Disney, it was an experience. And our family had done well over the years, as we grew up and everything. But in the formative years of our childhood, wasn't like had a ton of resources. But what we did have was my father's old blue Econoline van. It was a 15 passenger POS. Okay, but it got us where it needed to be, right? It was just a large 15 passenger van. We take out the seats, and I rode luggage
Not all
class.
the seats. We didn't take out all the seats.
No, they would take out seats. So it would
One
go,
row.
Gina would have the one seat. My sister Gina would have the one seat. My sister Danielle would have another seat. I would ride with the luggage sitting in the middle, and my sister Missy would be in the back on her seat. So I was riding luggage class.
I
Don't
rode
correct me.
luggage many times. You sat on the front seat with
This
the
is not
food.
this. Let me
I
just
object.
let me just listen. Okay.
Mhm.
Remember, we're going back to this is my magical experience.
Okay.
This wasn't for you to
I'm sorry.
critique
I'm
or
my fault for assuming it would be a true
there's
story.
gonna listen. Let's be honest. There's gonna be inaccuracies in this whole story. My memory is horrible, but this is what I feel happened. Okay,
Okay.
this is
Okay.
exactly what I feel
The
happened. Listen,
magic.
I'm gonna take. Yeah. All right. Listen, I'm gonna take you back to my ride to Disney World, riding luggage class on the hump of this little wheel well, in my dad's Ford Econoline van. But we get down there, and this is back when it wasn't like there wasn't Disney Springs, downtown Disney. What it was the Disney Village Marketplace back then. It was just a Disney Village.
Mhm.
And Saratoga Springs didn't exist, but there was like the vacation villas later down the trough from that. And then there was the treehouse villas, everything else. That was all completely separate stuff. And you had like a check in at like a pavilion back then. I think it was over in Lake Buena Vista. I
Yeah,
remember it was
the
kind of like,
welcome center.
yeah, like a little welcome center, right? Kind of like the
Mhm.
Jurassic Park thing in my mind.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we had that. We go down there, and it was just like the paper tickets at the park. I remember they ran the contest way back when. And you're talking about, for me, this is the early 80s. Okay. I was born in 1980, but this is like from when I can remember, this is 84, 85, something like that. And I think around that time, if I'm not incorrect about it, is like they had the paper tickets and they had like the contest, like what person through the turnstile
Mhm.
guest number, whatever it was. But I
Yeah.
remember I was like, oh, I hope it's me. I hope me. And you don't even know what you got. Like I swear the person probably got it, probably did some balloons flew over somewhere and like, hey,
I
congratulations.
do think
Here's
that
a
was Disney's 15th anniversary, so you're probably right on that of when that would have
yeah.
been.
So hey, look, see,
Mhm.
stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
But that kind of feeling, like where you were, I remember being in school and being like, we know we're going on a Disney trip, and you're like, oh my God, this is gonna be great. Even the trip down there was like it was part of the adventure. Like I said, we were fortunate enough to go. I remember trips when because we always drove, we very rarely flew to go to Disney. And remember from where we were in Maryland, that's like probably about with kids, it's about 16, 17 hours because with stopping. Now, when I drive it, I get there in about 14, but I'm awesome at it. So, I mean, I've done this like dozens of times and drove. But it was, I remember my father at the end of a trip, we were driving through the night or whatever. We woke up the next morning, we were back in Disney because he's like, you know what? Let's do it another day or something. It was the biggest thing when I was a kid. And I'm like, it was that magic, but it was also, you saw how enthralled in the magic he was. Like, this is your parent, and your parents just as excited as you are to spend this time and to see things. And over the years, we got to see all these things open. With the opening of Epcot, you got to see the opening of a time MGM Studios. Okay, and back when it was an actual studio. There was things going on there. You still had the Eiffel Tower. Why they got rid of that, I have no idea. Really weirdest decision ever. But then the opening of Animal Kingdom, the water parks, the downtown Disney stuff, everything. I remember going to Pleasure Island, but it was like all these, like I said, formative years across my life. I can picture myself and what I was doing according to like the timeline of Disney. I remember being a
Yeah.
teen and going on a trip with some friends and being down there and like being like 18 years old and going to Pleasure Island. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. And then you're like, yeah, I can only celebrate, New Year's so many nights in a row before I want to break this Jock Jam CD that they're playing each night. But I loved it. It was so
Yeah.
much fun.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
those things, I'm like, that was the magic. It was the feeling. It was like the feeling deep in your gut. You got like little butterflies, and you just felt like, anything was possible that you could go
Yeah.
through and it's almost like you feel like the movie Peter Pan, like where it's like you can fly, you can fly. You can feel like you do anything when you're at Disney when you're a kid. Like you're invincible. You're
Mhm.
going out there, except for pull that sword out of the stone because there's like, make sure that little green light's on or whatever. Like, okay, and then the wimpy kid pulls it. Like, all right, yeah, whatever. So, but again, it's like that feeling for me. I just thought it was such an important part of my childhood and growing up that when I grew up, and I still think I have, and I'm still amused by the same stupid jokes and the same humor, I swear to God, I had when I was 9. But I got to share this with when I had, when my daughter was young. I got to do these kind of things. And then she still gets excited every single time we talk about Disney. She's planning trips. We all sit there at the computer. We're like, all right, what are we going to do? Disney's literally the only trip you will plan out every freaking second of it. You're like,
Mhm.
all right, well, we got space here. We got an hour space right there. Man, we want to go over there. And then you get there and you're like, man, I wish I hadn't done all this, but I'm going to do it anyway. But you get so like distracted in a good way. You get to this point where you're like, oh my goodness, we're here. It's fine. And then it always seems to go by too quick for you.
Mhm.
Like, and you don't get to do half the things you want to do. You're like, oh man, if I only started having more fun earlier in the trip, if I only started doing some more things, you might go to a resort you've never been to. I'm like, I didn't even walk around this place. I'm like, I gotta be at Hollywood Studios in about an hour. I got a lunch, and then I've got some fast passes, and I've got some other things to do, and what have you. But you forget to do most. I've forgotten to do more things on a trip than I've gotten to do sometimes because I'm like, it just gets so involved in everything. But
Yeah.
I feel like that for me is that Disney magic, that Disney feeling
Yeah.
that some people just can't understand it. When they're like, you're going to Disney? I'm
Yeah.
like, damn right I'm going to Disney. This is, again, TV 14.
Mhm.
This is something that I love. I'm like, we can fight about it. I'm like, if you want, let's go. Look, I'm not a small man. Okay. But I'm like, it is so important to me that
Mhm.
people understand that this is not just a child's destination.
Mhm.
That Disney has some really incredible restaurants for foodies. They've got Epcot, which is great as long as you're not one of those people that's amateur hour. You can go around and have a good time drinking around the countries, having some cocktails. There's numerous bars and lounges on Disney property, and there's other things outside the park you can get involved in. But people, all they see or all they hear when you say Disney is they think of a cartoon mouse in a costume. Okay. And that's all they think of. They're like, oh, this is for kids. I'm like, it's not. And I guarantee even the kid stuff, when you go there, you're going to be so happy that you're going to be like, you know what? You're going to be that person. I'm not going to Disney. You're going to walk out of there with a pair of mouse ears on and some weird foam finger or something like this. You're like, I don't even know how I got any of this. You're like, but a little light up sword, a little bubble wand, which, by the way, whoever invented that little bubble machine, I want to find, because I have probably inhaled more of these stinking bubbles, and everybody gets in their kid like, here, let's shower everybody in the park with this little bubble machine. You're like, okay, good, I'm glad. I'm like, but stop the bubbles. Stop. I've had enough. Anyway, I digress. What's your magic?
Well, I agree with you about, from when we were a kid. I think it was really instilled in us. And like you said, it's a big part, like how the parents view it. If you've got parents that are just like, I spent so much money, and like, how does a kid really gain the experience that we were lucky enough to have? Because mom and dad were both like, this is so magical, this is so exciting, and we were very blessed that way. I do think that when people ask me why I go to Disney so much, the answer used to always be, well, it's consistent, and there's a feeling I get when I'm there. And also I think it boils down to like trust. Like, I trusted certain things from Disney. Like, I felt safer there, even though there's no, safety knows no like discrimination. Like, crime can happen anywhere, but I felt safe there. I felt like I trusted the cleanliness of it. I trusted that there were systems in place. So if something happened, somebody would know exactly what to do. Like, that was a big part of why I wanted a vacation in Disney as an adult. As a kid, it was definitely, obviously, what a feeling, like, so magical. You believed everything. Like, to me, the most tragic thing would ever be to see a character like out of character. It was like, God, I remember even as an adult when I did my first Disney half marathon, and when they took us like behind a wall, I was like, no! I was like, no, ruining my childhood. I mean, I know it's there. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see anything behind the curtain. Like, I want to live the illusion. And right now, I also tell people, like, as I have an 8-year-old son now, letting him experience things that I experienced as a child, it's just this beautiful kind of like moment. To me, Disney is a scrapbook of my life. I can look and say, that's the same place that I sat when I was 8 years old, and now I'm taking my son there. And of course, there's things that change, and rides and experiences and attractions that change, but like that feeling, like that, to me, tell you what a weirdo I am when it comes to Disney magic. Besides the fact that, by the way, I do have a tattoo that is Orioles and Disney combined. It says magic because those are my two favorite kinds of magic. But
nobody knows what that is.
Whenever I see Mickey Mouse at something, whenever I see Mickey Mouse show up at something, I think, whoa, how'd they get him? Like, I see him like, wow, this is a big event. They got Mickey.
She walked right by the president and was like, they got Mickey.
I'm not even kidding. Like, when I see him at like show up at stage show or parade, I'm like, God, they got Mickey. This is a big thing. They got Mickey. But that's the child in me. That's the child in me that is like, like, I just get so excited. And, I would go through my teenage years with my best friend, and we just were always excited to go there. There was no part of me as a teen that was like dying to go to Europe the way everybody else was. I just want to go to Disney many times as I could in the year, and I loved it. And an upcoming podcast, because it's a whole different topic, as we wanted to talk about how do you Disney, because vacationing with people that do Disney different ways, because there's so many ways to do it, is again a whole nother topic to broach. But something about Disney in relation to Universal that I personally feel like Disney has and will always have is when I'm on social media and I get those doses of what I call Disney dopamine, and it's just a video someone's showing of the monorail. It's a video someone's showing that's the sound that goes to the monorail. That's the, doors open, even if it's the ding ding or the
please stand clear of doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Yes, exactly. That gives me a feeling. I will sit on my Instagram all day and just scroll through, and I say to people, thank you for that dose of Disney dopamine. And it's just that feeling you get. Like, where else do you know that the sound of the transportation gives people like a buzzed feeling, or just somebody walking down Main Street? My friends will say to me frequently, I don't understand why you like to watch videos on YouTube of other people going to Disney. And I was like, and you never will, because that is just something about Disney magic. I like even watching other people. I love seeing people's photos of their trips to Disney. That's something that's not the same with Universal.
It's
Maybe Harry
fun.
Potter.
It's fun though. Like I watch people, but also I'm also having a fun time of judging them too, because for their opinions on things that are, in no offense to them, are wrong. You're doing Disney wrong, and that's wrong.
Oh,
Okay,
I posted a
that's
reel.
somebody trying to defend Mission Space to me. Okay,
I
there is no defense to that ride.
I posted a reel, the first reel
You either
on
hate
our
it or you're wrong.
yeah. Well, by the way, follow us on our social on Instagram. It's at BBT Magic Podcast. And we're on Facebook as well. But I posted a reel, and the first one I posted on our thing was when someone hates on Living with the Land. Like, I love that ride. I will love Living with the Land forever.
It's a
I will
classic and a treasure.
yeah.
That's
So
like
when
hating
people are
the
like,
Carousel of
"That's boring,"
Progress.
they're like, "That's boring." I'm like, "Get out. I don't want to talk to you. I can't with you right now." But again, it's just different kinds of Disney. When somebody who gets on
Disney tried
Spaceship
to teach people stuff. Learn something, loser.
I have a friend. We debate the idea of he gets on Spaceship Earth first ride. And I'm like, that's stupid because that is when there's a wait. Go at the end of the day, end your day at Spaceship Earth. Who gets on it first and waits 50 minutes for a ride that's 5 minutes at the end of the day? But that's just, I love the debate sometimes. It's kind of like I'm a baseball fan and people say, oh, how do you have friends that are Yankee fans if you're an Oriole fan? And I'm like, because we both love baseball. So same thing. If I'm debating somebody who loves Disney and I love Disney and we're debating a topic, something we like, something we don't like, I don't care because we both love Disney and I'll debate all day. It's fun, you know?
Well, the thing is, like, there's debates, like, okay, like, let's give you a topic. I know you're still in the middle of your stuff, and I don't mean to
That's
interrupt,
fine.
but you know, you're
Yeah,
doing a
you're fine.
podcast, and you get used to it. All right. So, drinking around the world, what country do you start in?
Mexico.
That is the correct answer, and it's the only answer. So, if you start in Canada, go back to Canada.
Yes, exactly.
That is
Always
the
Mexico.
incorrect answer. You're supposed to end up around there in the UK.
Because the number
You
one reason
down, you
being,
have a couple of drinks at the end.
whatever anybody's reason is, the number one reason is you should never be ending a loop with tequila. Like tequila is where you kind of need to like bring it in and start it off. Because if you've drank all the way around the countries, I don't even know you're going to get the that
Do you-
expensive drink.
Do you remember when we played pub golf in
Do
there?
I remember? Yes.
Oh, so for those of you watching and listening to this,
This is where
pub
TV
golf is where you select a drink for each hole, and each hole has a par, and that's the amount of sips you take to get through this cocktail of whatever it is. Let's just say we didn't make the best decisions when it came to Disney World because there's a lot of things on that menu that you can't possibly get a hole in one on, but I did, and I regretted each one of them. First of all, drinking, well, I'd do a margarita on the rocks because you could to do a frozen margarita, you couldn't choke that down in one.
We
in
tried
one
it with the
thing.
Grandma Ye slushy. Remember we
Well,
made
I got it down. I had the worst. I had the worst breezy headache from that. 'Cause I took the thing off and I drank the entire GM slushy from France, and my head was pounding. But when you play that, there's so many mixed things you're going from. Okay, tequila. You're going like as far as like a margarita. You got a margarita over there. Then you go and kind of meander your way from there into Norway. And Norway's just like beer or something like that. We'll get like a beer. You go back. You're in China. China. It was like I think like another type, like maybe a plum wine or something. I think we did there. And then you kind of go on and on. But there's wine stops throughout. There's beer things throughout. There's weird, and when you get into like Italy, we do like a glass like Rosa Regale or something. So it's like a sparkling like blush champagne kind of little. I guess that's what you would call it, right? Something like that.
It's like a raspberry like sparkling.
It's very sweet. It's very sweet. It's incredibly good. If you're in the Italy thing, go in their little wine room and get the Rosa Regale. That's actually really really refreshing. That or get like a thing of limoncello or something.
Yeah.
But as you go through, I'm like, all this stuff is sitting. I'm like, I think we did. Did we do something like sake or something like that in Japan?
Probably, but I remember you and Jim wanted to do the half a yard of beer, or the like that had the big old like things of a half a yard of beer. And I was like,
that
how
in there? Was that the same time?
Yeah, that we've done pub golf more than once. The one time we did it with the other Josh.
That wasn't on the gym trip. That wasn't that wasn't that one. That was a different. That was when you were that guy Josh, not this Josh. But it was a different Josh. That was the one because there's penalties when you're in pub golf. If you pee, it's penalty strokes, and if you throw up, it's like 5 strokes.
Yes, I think it's +3 if you pee and +5 if you throw up.
The guy that Gina was seeing at the time was going around. I think didn't he work at like Grand Floridian or something like that? Won't say any more about that, but it's like what he did, where he was. He's still there. Who knows? Could be dead. We don't know this. So facts. But he did both. He had to pee, and I think he threw up in a bush or something. So he's like, "Yeah, that
Yeah.
wasn't good." I was
We
like,
would
"Well, you
like
tried
to
to
just
follow
also
me."
put a disclaimer, we do not like recommend or endorse the idea of drinking to that level at Disney. We were a lot
No,
younger
no,
then.
it's a horrible idea. We stayed in the one you're talking
We're
about
nice.
with Jim. When you one you're talking about with Jim is when we
Mhm.
stayed at the Boulder Ridge.
Right.
We were at Wilderness Lodge, and I thought this will make part of the podcast. Stupid Josh stories of things that I thought was a good idea at the time that really was not. So you think when you're a little bit younger and you're like, yeah, I can drink this, I can drink that, I've got an iron stomach, I can do all these things. Let's just tell you about the thing that ruined my day. So Jim, Gina's ex-boyfriend, there's gonna be a lot of these in these stories, but Gina's ex-boyfriend, Jim, really great guy. He was on a trip with us, and Jim used to be a swimmer apparently in school or whatever he did. He did
Yeah.
swimming. I don't
Yeah.
even guess you call him a swimmer. He's like Greg Louganis, I don't know, or whatever it is, Michael
Frank
Phelps.
Venus was a diver, by the way.
So I could swim pretty fast for a somewhat fat guy, and I got a little speed in the pool. So we decided to race across the swimming pool at Boulder Ridge. But before we did so, we were at the bar, and I thought it was a good idea to do a shot of 151. Now, when I say a shot, I asked for a shot. They didn't have a shot glass. They had like a half rocks glass, or that rocks glass, they filled halfway up. I had to choke through a 3 slug back thing of 151, breathing fire and feeling like death. And then Jim did a shot of like Johnny Walker Black or whatever. Then we decided to get in the pool. Great idea. Let's get liquored up and get into a swimming pool. So we get into the pool and we're racing across. So I race across. He, of course, beats me. I'm not a swimmer. It was a close race. I think I did pretty good. So I get out instantly. I'm incapacitated for the rest of the day. And I'm just sitting in the corner going, this
First
is
of all, a
horrible.
shot of 151 is never a good idea. There's absolutely no time unless you are a block of cheese that's trying to get on
It
fire.
was a disclaimer that I said I was wrong. It was not a good idea.
Yeah.
But again, don't gaslight me. Don't
Right.
be that person. But for me, I couldn't do anything the rest of the day. I remember going to dinner and sitting there and just looking at everybody. I couldn't eat. I couldn't move. I go, I want to leave. So a lesson to people that are listening to this, watching, whatever, what have you.
Don't try this at
Don't do
home
that
or
ever.
anything.
Don't do that. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't falling all over myself. I just felt incredibly ill for the rest of the day. And I'm sure I probably said stupid things when I was by myself or around my family, but never to people in the parks or whatever.
Yeah.
We've all had a little bit of a buzz on. And by the way, when I'm buzzed in the parks, if it's anything like that, I'm the most friendly person in the world. I'm not touchy-feely with anybody, but I'm the most friendly person you'll probably ever bump into because I'm just like, I want everybody to have a good time. I'm not a mean drunk. I'm not violent. I'm not that way. It's not like the opening of Food and Wine weekend where you get every local down there. No offense to the locals, but you guys just get trashed. That's why I never go to Food and Wine on a weekend, much less opening weekend in Disney because it's amateur hour. Everybody's drunk, falling all over the place, and literally there's kids around. So who wants to be that way?
Yeah.
But again, so that's the story of Jim and I's little swimming
It's related
escapade
to
there.
Disney magic. I have no idea how, but this is how we got here.
That is Disney magic. It was very magic that I did not die in the pool at Boulder Ridge.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It's magic, I'm telling you.
circling back
you go.
to the idea of like what I was saying before about the Disney dopamine, like I don't think there's anyone else that has that. Like you might see somebody post a video like on their feed of like being on a beach and someone's like, oh, that looks nice. But Disney, again, anybody just walking down Main Street, somebody saying this in a churro or this in a Mickey, like you just feel it. You feel it inside. It's like the ocean calling to Moana. It's like Disney calls to me and I'm like, I want to go. So I think that's again back to why we wanted to do this podcast is because it's not about here's what we'd like to criticize Disney. It's about two people who we know we're not the only ones that love Disney so much and don't want to see it lose what makes it special. You know, when Eisner came in way back in the day, Disney was in a place where they were ready to chop it up and sell it piece by piece. And I remember doing a report in school about it. And he came in, and I really believe, besides the fact of, building new parks and whatever, and MGM and all, it was really such a big deal the way that guest experience came in back then. You remember it. I mean, I think it also relates to, if I could say something to cast members, I relate this to other jobs as well. Like, again, I worked in bars, you worked in bars. I have a friend named Will, and I always hold him at this like level that I tell people as far as a bartender. He's not just good at making drinks and serving. You feel like he genuinely wants to take care of you. He's like never on his cell phone. If there's nothing to do, he's refilling your water, wiping down the bar, but always with a smile, always greets everybody. And that to me is like a Disney cast member. When you've got that Disney cast member that you know was so excited when they got their ears, or you see the ones that say earning my ears, and you just see that they have an idea of like, this is so magical that I get to work here. I'm so excited. Like, I don't want other people, I don't want guests ruining that and deflating them. But that's what we're seeking, is that person that just greets you with a smile, looks like they enjoy what they're doing, and is carrying the magic. And again, sees their job as the hostess at Tony's being every bit as valuable as the girl who's dressed as Cinderella or the guy who's Aladdin in the parade. It's all part of the magic. I want them to know that there are Disney fans that recognize like you guys are part of the magic too. Don't think you're just like wallpaper to us. Like, you are part of the magic. And I just want that being infused back into them, so then the guests will respond that way too. And again, there's always going to be entitled people. There's always going to be people that are just sour everywhere they go. But Disney's
Well,
got that.
yeah, and it's the people you talk about, the cast members in there. It's like everybody's like, "What's this cast member?" I'm like, again, it's got to be tough because this might be the week you go, but the week before that, this person might have been treated so poorly and just over it by then. Everybody has their breaking point, and we understand that, But I always try to say, I'm like, be the change you want to see in the world. Okay, so if you're going to be just let it be. Just let it be. This is let them do this. My wife actually referenced, there's a book I think just says, it says like just let them, I want to say, is the book. Um I want to say, I'm trying to remember the author, but they said if there's somebody's going to be this way, just let them be this way. Like
Mhm.
that's just who they are. Don't let it affect you or whatever, but still meet somebody with kindness.
Yes.
Like, so when I go through, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Blah blah. If somebody's kind of like this, I said, oh, what's going on? Try to brighten up their day a little bit. I'm here. It's a give and take in life. I'm like, I want to know when I'm gone, I made more deposits than withdrawals out of life, and that's what I always kind of say, because I want to make things better. I want to help people. I want to be around, make people smile, make people laugh. And look, I'm a big goon anyway. Like, I'll make jokes about everything. You're going to learn this episode by episode on this podcast that I am not the least serious person in the world when it comes to fun stuff. Okay. If it's a serious thing, and it might even be, listen, it sounds awful, but even at a funeral, I may still crack a joke with somebody, not about the deceased, God forbid, whatever. But it's like, just that levity, that feeling. I always want to laugh. I don't want to cry. I'd rather laugh. I'd rather think about the good times and things. And Disney gives me that, like you said, that Disney dopamine. It gives me that feeling, that just like that warm and fuzzies inside, where I get excited about everything and I want to see him do better. Like, I'm not sitting there trashing things. Like, we'll go through some reviews as we do different podcast stuff and where it's topical about restaurants and all. There's ones that I've had bad experiences at, like anything else, but there's ones that I've had locally that I've had bad experiences with, that I've had good experiences other times. It's going to be a give and take kind of deal. You can't just hold him like, oh, this is the end all be all. You want, like I said, you want them to succeed. You want them to put out a better product. You want them to do a little bit more for their fans. And that's the thing, is like, we've invested, God knows, if you had to see the number over the course of, let's say, our 40 plus years of we've been going to Disney, imagine seeing the bill of what that is that many years later. And we're averaging, I would say, 1 to 2 trips per year
Mhm.
at least within
Mhm.
that thing. Sometimes it was more. And we're not geographically, we're on the East Coast, but we're not right in there. A guy would be way more, be there every day if that
Yep.
was the case. But like, when you're going through it, you're paying for hotels and tickets and dinners and everything else. I'm like, that's huge.
I
It's like, you really appreciate what your parents do for you,
Yeah. I wanted to read to you from this article. That's why I'm looking down at my phone. I'm not texting or anything, but I'm looking down because it was this whole thing I looked up about, the Disney traditions training that they do. And I was even looking on TikTok and like searching it to see like, are they still even doing that? Because to me, it doesn't feel the same. You remember they used to tell you like traditions is the training you go through. So even a janitor, well, not that there's anything wrong with being a janitor, but a janitor could be asked, when did Disney open or whatever, and get that same service. Because again, they're part of the magic. So this article written talking about the manual and everything. And he said, relevant standards for Disney cast members to this day. It said things like, and I think these are all very poignant. When people think Disney, they think fun, excitement, and quality. we create a show each day for each guest. And I think if they were really emphasizing that for the people, and I love the people that do see it that way, that like especially if you know at 12 o'clock, now that girl that you're dealing with might have just gotten on shift and that's why she's so jolly, or she may have been like that for the last 4 hours because she's giving every guest the same experience. It says cast members are the most important element of our show. Guests are our number one priority. Each guest deserves the same special treatment. We uphold the Disney image. We create happiness for our guests. People expect the best from Disney. Our goal is to go above and beyond to exceed those expectations. And I love this one. We work while others play. And I think that's a generational thing too, that a lot of places I noticed
The
that.
dwarves, they whistle while they work.
I noticed that in a lot of
Just
places, not just
saying.
in Disney, where you feel like people who are working are making it like they're doing you a favor or like you're on their time. And it's kind of like, no, that's not how it's supposed to work. Like I knew when I managed a spa, stressful people were going to come into that place and they were going to dump all their stress on me. And I knew not to take it personally. And I knew that I got in this job because I wanted to do these things for these people. Nobody forced me to work in a spa.
In my defense, when I came in, yelled at you at the spa, I had just drank and went swimming across the pool, and I was not in the best of moods.
Oh, right. Exactly. Duly noted. Get out. But I do think those things are really key. The we work while others play. Now, I don't think that anybody deserves to be disrespected as a Disney cast member. I don't want that for them. Like, I know they're going to be, like you said, a-holes that come in and are mad about something. I had the same issue at the spa. People that didn't book a service and thought they did and are mad at me and whatever. But you're upholding the Disney image. And what is the Disney image right now? It's a little confused. It's a little muddied. It's a little clouded. What is the image right now? If you ask me, I'd say, I don't even know. I know what it's supposed to be, but right now it feels like we're trying to make up for all the people that aren't coming. So we're going to overcharge the people that are. And that's where like the loyal fans get the shaft, because you're like, so now I got to pay more because other people aren't coming. And then, so what am I supposed to do? Also not come? And then it's just going to keep getting more expensive. I don't know. But I think they need to stop trying to be what Universal is. Don't do what they're doing. Do what you always did well. You know what I mean? Like Taco Bell doesn't need to compete with McDonald's. Yes, they can both exist on the same street because they're both bringing different things. They're both food, but they're different kinds of food. Even a Wendy's and a McDonald's can exist on the same street because they each offer something different, even if it's slightly, that somebody likes better. Someone's going to like sweet. Someone's going to like salty. It's like there's that. But Disney magic is the thing that everybody loves. You go there, you want to see your kids' eyes light up. Daddy used to say that I had a Disney smile. He's like, as soon as we hit that park, Gina, it's this smile I don't see any other time during the year. It's your Disney smile. It's like a glow. I love it. It gets me so pumped when I talk about this. And that again is why we're doing this podcast. It's because we want to find like, where are these little cracks? And if ever it gets to the right people, and God knows we're not thinking anybody's going to hear this podcast that matters, but I hope they do. And even if it's just for other people who are listening and feel the same way, to know you're not alone. Like, we're with you. We love it. We want to see the magic come back. There is still magic in there. It's not dead. It just needs a little, revival, I guess. And
Well, here's the other thing is, and I just recently, you'll know where I'm going with this too. I just recently got a bunch of challenge coins made. Okay. And I did a bunch of them. So what I do is I take them around, and it's got like, it's hard to read. I can hold up what the challenge coin looks like.
Explain what a challenge coin is for listeners who don't know what that is.
Challenge coin, like, is more of a military thing where you go through, you collect these things, you kind of challenge person. If they produce a coin, they owe you a drink or whatever. It kind of was a little game back and forth. It actually started more militarily than anything, but it's just nice commemorative coin that I can give out to cast members. And it's got like Steamboat Willie on it because he's now, public domain. So I'm like, okay, I got him on the front, and then it's got his tail. It's like heads and tails. So it's got his tail on the back. So it's head, tail. I know it's hard to see with that. But what I do is I go around and give him, it has around the thing. It's like, thank you for restoring the magic. People like you that make the Disney, experience awesome, blah, blah, keep this or pass it on to somebody else. But I made a bunch of these, and that way I could give them out to cast members that really do it. And you could see the ones that really it means a lot to. And that's the ones I tend to go after. I don't just give it to anybody. Thanks for holding the door. Here, ding, here's your coin.
Exactly.
But you can see that I gave it to a guy. It was one of the Disney bus drivers the last trip I was on. And really nice guy. I missed the old days on the bus that they used to tell you little trivia things about, like how many ketchup packets it would take to circle, that Disney used in a year would circle the earth X amount of time. You lined them end to end. And I'm like, wow, these were great. But he had this stuff where it was like different acronyms for Epcot and everything. Because I told him, like, there's a T-shirt on
Theme Park
themeparkchuckle.com.
Chuckle.
Yeah, Theme Park Chuckle, our sponsor. If you go on there, it says Epcot and it says everything's probably closed or temporary, which is very true for the longest time with Epcot because it was all walled up and the festivals come and go. Here's this ride. The only thing that they can't get rid of right now is Mission Space, which I'm trying to make happen because it should be. And there's my my small little tirade. Mission bathroom. Just make it like a Bucky's bathroom in there. Make a bunch of stalls. It would be way more purposeful than somebody going in and getting sick. Everybody gets sick on that ride. Nobody truly enjoys it. Like, oh, wow, this is cool. And even the people that do, good on you for that. But I'm not one of them. I don't want to be cramped in a small space and then spun like I'm in a dryer and then be like, oh, yeah, this was great. And I don't want to drink or eat for the rest of the day. I've already had that happen one time, racing somebody across the pool. I don't need to have it happen again. And that's where I'm kind of stand with it. But the guy on there, he was telling me all this trivia stuff. And at the end, I gave him my wife says, she's like, do you see him looking at the coin or whatever? And he's just like got a big like smile on his face. He's like reading it. But that's the kind of stuff that makes I'm not doing it to make me feel good. I'm doing it to make them feel good because God knows it's got to be hard. Disney has relaxed a lot with the staffing because that was part of COVID. Like the reservation system had nothing to do really with COVID. It was more the fact that they were so badly depleted in staffing. And that's why you saw they had to relax the hiring when now people have tattoos. Some people look unkempt. I have more problem. I'm a tattooed person, I'm more of a problem with the unkempt look. Like when somebody looks like they just threw their hair up like this or something, guy or girl, like Gina, perfect example. We're going to do a podcast. Let's put my hair in a bun. Who does this? Anyway, but they go through and they look unkempt. So why do this? Like before it's like guys had to have a mustache a certain way. They had to have their hair a certain way. They had to do this stuff. There was no tattoos or piercings. Again, I'm pierced, tattooed, all this kind of stuff. I have no problem with that kind of person. But it's the one that looks like they rolled out of a hamper. And you're like, this is who you got in here. But they had to relax it because they couldn't get people in there and they couldn't staff the parks. And the reservation thing was based upon, I truly believe, and you can fight me on this if you want, was based on the fact that you can only let X amount of people in there because you only had X amount of staff to service that many people. Because when you get the crowds that Disney does, I mean, when you see a wave and think about the amount of property this thing is on, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, I'm like, you imagine they're like, they're relaxed hiring, they're doing this stuff, but to feel appreciated by somebody and say, oh, thank you so much. I love the people that are happy in their job. The last time when I think Gina was, who was it? Caitlin's birthday or somebody that the one janitor guy was singing, it was like an air guitar and he was singing like happy birthday and I recorded it. It was crazy. And then I gave him a coin and I was like, this is great.
I was going to say the one I gave out last September that was most meaningful to me, because I did give out a couple and that's the greatest feeling. Like I gave it out to one girl who was a hostess and she was Disney trivia at Tony's and she was so sweet and delightful. And it was like, that girl could have been a Disney princess. Like she was just so sweet and it was a crowded, restaurant and having to seat everybody. She was fantastic. But my favorite was when we were staying at the Grand Floridian, the janitors that come along with the water bucket and paint the Mickey and Donald scenes on there. And so I waited until he was done. And I went up to him and was like, hi, my same thing I always say is like, I'm a big Disney fan, big fan of Disney magic, and sometimes lately it's been a little bit harder to find, but my brother made these coins to give out to people that just really exemplify the Disney magic. And I want to and his face was just like, this means so much to me. Like, oh my God, like, thank you. This means so, like, just the fact.
It's only yours for $49.95.
And I could feel like my eyes like welling up because I was like, I want to make the cast members feel magical too. I really want any of them that ever listen to this podcast, if they do, not to think that this is like us bashing cast members. It's not like we want to feel the magic with you. We want to share in the show with you. It's the same way when someone's on stage at Broadway. It's like, you want them to perform well. You want them to have a great, because you want to get up and cheer and mean it. Perfect example before I forget, Josh, because I said I was going to say this in this episode and I know time is ticking on and you and I could talk for 6 hours, but a perfect example of reciprocal Disney magic is my family was in Disney and it was a whole lot of us. It was like 15 or 18 of us together on this trip. It was my mom's family and it was us. And we had called ahead, months prior and made reservations for all of us at Mama Melrose. And the reservation was for 5 o'clock, which would be no issue, right? We get up there, and for whatever reason, like Mama Melrose's was closing at 5 o'clock that day. And so we get in, we're like, we have a reservation, and they're like, we close at 5. Now there's still people in there eating because they don't shut the door at 5. Some people might have had a 4:30, whatever. And they're like, and they're so unprepared for us. And we were like, they see we're a large group. We're like, we're so sorry. Like, is there any
Well,
way
we
to
were
make
rolling deep. That was like over 12 people.
I said it was like 15 or 18 people. It was a lot of us.
Yeah.
So we go in and they say, okay. And you can kind of tell they're being friendly, but it's kind of like probably begrudgingly friendly. And from the start of that meal, my family, God bless them, everything they did, we erupted into applause for them. Like the waitress was like, what? We were like, yay, thank you. We're cheering them on. They're like,
yeah, water. We love water.
By the end of that meal, the chefs had come out and give all the kids and guys chef's hats, like the paper, like toques. They'd given them that. Everyone wanted to wait on our table because they knew they were going to get a huge round of applause. And it was so magical. And even like a Disney restaurant manager came over because we were like recording. She's like, anytime you guys want to come back, here's my card. Give us a call. Because like we knew, like, I'm sorry, you guys were expecting to be finishing up and this big table rolls in. It wasn't our fault. It's not like we were asking for something that we weren't supposed to get. But we made it magical for them. And that is a moment I'll never forget. It's like high on my list of Disney magic because we weren't
It
just
was amazing.
it was
It was
phenomenal.
absolutely amazing. And we
Yeah.
all got food poisoning. It was weird.
Stop.
Just
It was
kidding. None of
so
us got
cool,
food
though.
poisoning.
And we were all singing like That's
That
Amore.
same lady worked at ESPN Club later and did another thing for us. What was it, like a year later or something like that. She's like, oh, I remember you guys here. And they put us like a private like table thing and did this whole thing. It was so nice. But again, it's how you treat people. And it's just, I don't know. It's for me, I'm always just so appreciative of people that try harder. Okay. You don't want the people that are just like, oh, here's this. I noticed that like the people that make the effort makes my day. Okay.
Yeah.
But the people are just like going through the motions here. I'm collecting a paycheck. We get it. Work sucks for most people.
And you never know what somebody's day's been like. They could have gotten horrible news in their life. You never know. We obviously understand that not every day is a great day for somebody. We get that. Obviously.
Yeah, we're in Disney. They're working there. And that's the thing. It's like they have to be there. And there might have been something tragic in their life, but again, you hope that maybe you meet them with a little bit more, respect, courtesy,
Compassion.
and kind of, compassion. And then you make their day a little bit, or just ask them how they're doing. It could be the difference in their complete day. That's the thing with
I've
it.
definitely seen people turn around, not just in Disney. I've seen that where a server kind of has a little bit of an attitude with me, and I just get like super, super friendly and not like in a passive aggressive way, in a genuine way. And then you just can kind of sense their energy change. And you think somebody made you feel that way, and I'm going to do my best to kind of remove it. And if I can't, okay, that's fine. I'm not gonna, two of us butting heads isn't going to make for a better situation for anybody. And also, I'm an example to my son. I want him to see how I treat people. I'm not a Karen. I'm not going to go up and be like, well, and like demanding. I'm just going to try and keep the magic going. And that's the thing. I don't want our kids to have less magic than we did. And I've asked myself,
That's what I was going to say. I'm like preserving the magic for future generations. That's exactly. Thank you. Because you hit on exactly what I was going to say. I don't mean to interrupt. Like I was killing me. I was like, what is that? I wanted to say. But again, it's literally, you want people to have the same experience you did, because this is a completely different type park now. Like it's like the feeling's different, but there's still the magic still sits there, but it's waiting for somebody to wake it up a little bit more and get more involved. Cause like the Disney personalities, the stage show people, the people that are really into it, you don't even see like in Hollywood studios, the people come around the cars, they do like things. You don't see that as much as you used to before, because it's just not that kind of, they've kind of like dealt or done away with a lot of things they used to do.
Yeah.
And same thing is like when they opened Galaxy's Edge, and this is a very short little tidbit before we wrap up the episode. It was supposed to be immersive. I'll go through this in another episode, but I was fortunate enough to go to the media day on Galaxy's Edge and get to experience it before it opened in Disney World, not the Disneyland one where they had all the celebrities. We just had Bob Paycheck and some other people that were Chapek, but Lord forgive me. But I got to go there at hors d'oeuvres and thing, got to come in through the back, like where the Millennium Falcon was. It was really, really cool. I got to see us, but they were having us go around like, here, take this piece of luggage over here and like this, like you were smuggling stuff.
Mhm.
That was what it was kind of supposed to be. It was supposed to be this immersive experience where you were going through and they were acting like you were really walking through Batu. You know, you're in the Black Spire outpost and you're doing this, and they kind of did away with that. And I feel like there's a ton of people that love like the Galaxy Cruiser. I'm like, that's going to be like a huge thing for years now. The people that went to it, they're like reunion groups, and they're like, oh, and I know this person, this one girl, Constance, I know that's in the industry I previously was in. She went like a couple different times with her family. She's like, it was like amazing, and she had a great experience. But that was more of that immersive kind of thing that was supposed to be out in the regular part of like the Black Spire Outpost, Batu. And I'm like, man, if they kept that, that'd been really cool. But again, they just kind of like, well, we're not going to do this. I feel like it's just a lot of logistical stuff. It's like, oh, who can be a good actor to do this? And like, who can
Mhm.
work
Mhm.
that day? And who really feels like they're in the spirit of it. But that kind of stuff, like, again, restore that Disney magic. And as like I said, we wrap up this episode, our first episode in our Bring Back the Magic podcast. It's good to be able to get that message out there and tell our stories. And trust me, we've got a ton of stories to tell you over 40 plus years of this, and a lot of opinions. Some you'll agree with, some you won't agree with. Okay, there's gonna be things you're gonna be like, listen, that can burn in a fire. I'm like, that opinion's garbage. You know what?
Sometimes you and I will disagree, you know?
It's not going to bother me one bit because it ain't going to stop me from keeping on. I'm like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Josh is going to Josh at the end of the day. He's going to be a Disney fan. He's going to love this stuff. I've worked around, background on me. I've worked around the comic book entertainment industry for over a quarter century. I've been in it pretty much my entire life.
Yeah.
But I love, literally, I'm surrounded by characters all the time, but I love this fandom. I love it. I love characters. I love storytelling. I love that passion and what comes out of it. I love that creation project or not project, but creation, kind of whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I don't have words. Words are tough, but it's something that really, really excites me in my life is being able to be around creative people. Gina's a very creative person. We bounce off each other. That's why one of the reasons we want to do this podcast is like, look, we're neither of us are going to be short on things to say. So you're going to see us fighting for mic attention or mic time and everything else. But it's only because we're not
Passion.
competing with each other. It's just because we have so much stuff to say, and we worried that we're going to forget it. At least me, because I think I have Alzheimer's. But it's just like I feel like if I don't say it, I'm like I've got like Disney Tourette's, where I just got to blurt out whatever I'm thinking about Disney, and it's something it's going to consume me. But this is a wonderful experience. I'm glad everybody could join us. Gina, if you have anything final to say before we wrap up the episode.
I was just going to remind everybody to follow us on our socials, because for us, that's the way, since our podcasts aren't live, that we can interact with you guys. We want to hear from you. We want to say, please, like, share your magical memories. Share, if we post a question, we want to hear your answers, because we'd love to be able to discuss it on the show. But that would be great. So it's at BBT Magic Podcast on Instagram, and then it's Bring Back the Magic Podcast on Facebook. Those are the two that we're on for now, but we'll be expanding obviously into the other, social media platforms. But right now, keeping it so we can kind of keep it together. But follow us on those. Let us know what you think, because we want to know. But honestly, it is just my brother and I talking to each other. I can't tell you how many times leading up to this, we would just naturally be talking, and we would jokingly say to each other, "Stop it! You're wasting the podcast. You're wasting the podcast." Because we
don't give away things that we could say again.
I know. I would love to tell you what length this podcast will be on a regular basis. We knew the first one would be at least an hour, but thank you for those who stuck through the whole thing. The beauty of the still pause button, and that it's not live like old school radio stations used to be. You can drop it and pick it back up when you're ready. But there's just a lot of passion here in our family, my brother and I, especially, and you may see some of our other family members as guests on the podcast. I'd love to have some Disney creators on there. So if you're out there and you think you've got something worth sharing, hit us up, inbox us on the Instagram or Facebook.
We do have some special guests will come up in future shows, people that are, very much involved with Disney, maybe some celebrity guests, those kind of things. But also be kind in the comments. We have feelings. I know I might be trash at some points, but you don't have to tell me. People know if they suck. You don't have to tell me.
This is a Disney fan podcast. This is a podcast about.
But like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it, tell your friends, come back and watch it again. And you know what? We're just going to keep talking and telling stories until we exhaust ourselves. We're going to do this as long as we can, and as long as you guys allow us before we get canceled ultimately for some stupid. So we'll sign off for now, Gina.
Thanks for tuning in.
And please watch your head and step as you exit the podcast. We'll see you next time.
Bring back the magic for all to see. Together we'll discover all the joy and glow. In every story, there's a little bit of gold. Join our podcast adventure, let the magic unfold.